7:14 on this Wednesday, the 23rd. This first day of fall. Wow. As always, good when good friends stop by the studio. I want to welcome Mark Cooper to mic number 2. Welcome, Mark.
Good morning, Dale. How are you?
I'm doing good. Saw you at the fair last week.
Dale, I was
You're still
there.
dragging your knuckles, aren't you?
I was there for a lot of hours. And my wife was there also, and some good supporters.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Well, so how you been? How's things going?
Very well, Dale. Very busy.
Yeah. So, let me get it straight. You're running for Baxter, Marion District Court Judge. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. Are you on Facebook that way?
We are. Our Facebook page is Mark Cooper for Judge.
There it is right there.
Set up by my brother, Brett, and because, frankly, my social media experience up until this race was being on my own personal Facebook page and going in and basically hitting likes on posts and wishing happy birthday to my friends.
There you go. Well, your opponent, Jason Duffy, was here yesterday, and we're going to kind of base the questions equal back and forth so everybody knows where we're at. Who is Mark Cooper? What makes Mark Cooper tick?
Mark Cooper is an individual who grew up in this area. We moved here with my mom and dad, Bud and Minerva Cooper, when I was 2.5 years old. And we lived in a rent house, Dale, that was where First Federal, now Bear State Bank, sits right across from Centennial.
Oh, right down here?
Yes.
Really?
Went to school here, went to kindergarten there, and grade school. Even ran away from school, and that was a short walk for me to get to when I did run away. My aunt called one morning and said, how's Mark doing in school? And my mother said, I don't know, if you'll wait a second, and I'll ask him. He's walking across the street. But I attended all 12 years there in Mountain Home, and law school at the university.
What year did you graduate? 75?
1975.
Okay, you're ahead of me.
And then went to undergrad law school at the University in Fayetteville. Came back here in 1982 and set up shop initially with Ron Kincaid. Ron needed someone. He'd had a tragedy in his firm, a loss of a person in his firm, a lawyer named Ed Cunningham.
Really? I don't remember that.
Ed had passed away, and so he needed some temporary help, so I worked with Ron for a while. Went in practice in partnership with Bud Carney for 10 years, and then after that I went out on my own, and I have been on my own with what initially was Cooper Law Firm, now it's Cooper & Bayless.
Great. I ask everybody this question. When Mike Ross was sitting in that very chair, and Asa Hutchinson and Curtis Coleman, you got a genie in a bottle, you get 3 wishes. What's wish number 1?
Wish number 1 would be world peace. Wish number 2 would be that the word of what I think is, without question, the world's answer would be that everyone would know Jesus Christ as their personal Savior. Wish number 3 would be for health of those that are hurting right now, things that we take for granted. And I guess if I could throw in wish number 4, it'd be a cure for diseases such as cancer, ALS.
Yeah. So in your line of work as an attorney, what has in the last, 35 years just shocked your socks off? I mean, and a lot of this is confidential, you can't talk about, but what has just shocked your socks off that I can't believe this is happening?
Dale, we are seeing, even in our area, we're seeing so much more criminal activity. And as I get older, I'm 58 years old, I see that there's a proliferation of methamphetamine. There's an abundance of people that have prescription medication that they don't have a prescription for. And you mix those together with something like alcohol, and you get a dangerous combination. But if you just said, Mark, tell me one thing that you've seen us take over and be a changer in the practice of law or just life in general, I would say that it's been just in the criminal element anyway, just how much methamphetamine is available in our society.
Unbelievable. Let's get to the hard questions. So in the second half of the show, we can have some fun.
Sure.
Pull up the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed. I mentioned to Judge Duffy yesterday that as I read that, I don't need an Act 746 because I read it to keep an arm means I can put it in my drawer, on top of the shelf, or in the refrigerator if I wanted to, but to bear means I can carry it in my hand, put it on top of my head under my hat, or put it in a holster. How do you read the Second Amendment?
I think it's a fair interpretation. I'm an absolute believer in the Second Amendment. I've used this example, and I've been asked that question. That's a commonly asked question on the campaign trail. Even though it's probably not ever going to really come into play in what either Jason or I do, whichever one is elected to this position. But I have a gun right next to my bedstand. I have rifles upstairs in my house. So obviously I'm a believer in the Second Amendment. My family.
Weren't you avid hunters? Did you?
Yes, yes.
Your family did a lot of hunting?
Oh, yes. And that still occurs in our family.
Have you led a political party in a county or state?
I have approximately 20, I'll say 22 to 24 years ago. I was the head of the Democratic Party here in Baxter County.
Back when things were different.
Things were a lot different then.
How have things changed?
Well,
let's go back 25 years.
25 years ago, I think the Democratic Party was much more mainstream. It was much more conservative. It was much more in tune with the values of Baxter and Marion County. The Democratic the Democratic Party has lost touch, and by that, people like myself, I'm not actively involved in any political party. This is a nonpartisan race.
You know, a lot of folks, because I used to vote Democrat, and I did. The last time I did was Jimmy Carter in '76. Then I jumped and I went to the Republican side in 1980, and basically been following that. But you look at people like Harry Truman or Roosevelt or even John Kennedy, good men, and even Bill Clinton. I thought Bill Clinton, for our economics, we had a good economy under the Clinton administration. And I'm not plugging Hillary Clinton by any stretch of imagination, but we had. You look at that economy. What was the first time Bill was elected? Bill Clinton was elected. Was that 91?
President Clinton was.
You went to the inauguration.
I did. Yeah. In 1992.
Okay, yeah.
But
that was some good good economic times.
It was, and what happened, if you recall, Dale, back to 1994, there was a disastrous congressional race for the Democratic side, where the Republicans essentially took control, and the Democratic Party.
Was that in 94?
I believe it was in 94. We're going back in time, but at some point in the first term of the Clinton presidency, he brought in a moderate to conservative individual by the name of David Gergen.
Yeah.
And Gergen was able to get the Clinton administration to be in the center, economically and on all issues. And from that point on, his presidency took off. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you can point to David Gergen.
I described this to Mayor Dillard one day. I do a lot of restoration of old electronic devices. And perhaps I'll be working on an old stereo phonograph. And I said, if you get everything out of the left channel, you only hear the left channel. If you get everything out of the right channel, you only hear the right. But what happens when you hit the balance knob in the middle? You get full dimensional stereo. Is that what we need from our people? Do we need both parties working together in negotiations and coming to a common ground?
Oh, absolutely. And I think you're seeing that in Washington. I know that now we're seeing it in Little Rock, where politics is bipartisanship. And by the way, this race that I'm in is it's
Let
not.
me mention for Mark, being a judicial race, there's some things that we cannot discuss.
True.
And it was even harder for Judge Duffy yesterday because he's a sitting judge on the bench. But you cannot declare a political party in this race. And I need to remind folks that whether you vote for Mr. Cooper or Judge Duffy, it will be during the primary on March 1st of next year. So this is a short campaign trail here because you're going to lose the week of Christmas and New Year.
Right. And if I could just add one other thing, Dale, too, this is a new judgeship. This is District 10.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That encompasses Baxter and Marion County.
Yeah, it is.
Judge Gerhardt, Judge Van Gerhardt has done an absolutely great job. He's retiring.
Excellent job.
But there is no incumbent in this race. This is a brand new seat.
Right.
So what you say concerning Judge Duffy, yes, he is the sitting judge of Marion County, but there is no incumbent in this race. This is going to be totally new to whoever wins this race because right now Jason is able to have the judgeship in Marion County and maintain his private practice. I'm able to maintain my private practice totally, as well as do the public defender part-time. But whoever wins this race, it's going to be a full-time job. No more private practice.
Yeah. On the abortion issue, I'm a part of Baxter County Right to Life. Do you believe that life begins at conception? Are you pro-life, pro-choice? What do you think on that?
I believe that that life, yes, that it begins at conception. From my standpoint, Dale, I am not an advocate of abortion. There are exceptions to that, the well-known exceptions of rape, incest, and if there is a documented danger to health-wise to the mother.
Right.
But those would be the only three exceptions that I have.
On the gay marriage issue and the Supreme Court ruling, I thought of this, and I wanted to get your opinion. And we're done about 2.5 minutes before we go to the news break. What law did the Supreme Court base that on? And we discussed yesterday with Judge Duffy. Is there any law in the book about marriage in the United States? Is there any law in the book that says we can't steal, we can't kill, we can't commit adultery? Does it go all the way back to Scripture? Is this natural law that we're dealing with? How do you see, as an attorney, how do you see that decision on the Supreme Court?
I think that from a legal standpoint, the court was looking at the due process clause and how that would apply, and how with a majority that was opinion that was written as to how that that constitutionally gay marriage could not be recognized by the court. From my standpoint, from a biblical standpoint, then you cannot recognize it.
Right.
And if you read the Bible from a literal standpoint, which I do, then it is not biblical.
Now, with that being said, and you bring up an excellent point, Scripture says, "Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery." So, now, if somebody were to pull, and even Wikipedia, and I'm running out of time here, Wikipedia says separation of church and state is a metaphorical statement because we know it's not in the Constitution. But yet, if somebody would say, well, separation of church and state, would that make murder and adultery and being a thief legal?
No.
So where's that law? Where do we look for that law? Where does it say in the United States law we cannot kill somebody or we can't commit adultery?
Well, those are...
If we did, you'd be out of job.
Well, for one, the states still have powers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of argument going on about should the states have more powers. Our legislature has passed laws that say, for example, Dale, that you cannot murder someone, you cannot kill someone.
Yeah.
You cannot drive at a level of .08 blood level or higher. Those are all passed by.
We're going to talk about that in the second half of the show because we're going to be talking about distracted driving issues there. Go ahead, finish your statement. We got
so the states are still given enormous powers.
Yeah.
And our legislature, as well as the other legislatures throughout the state, or these states, have passed laws that say you cannot do these crimes that you're talking about. You cannot steal, you cannot murder, you cannot break and enter into someone's vehicle. Mm-hmm. yes, there is definite black law letter that says you cannot do that, as well as what we as lawyers call the common law, which is case law dating back all the way to England, because we have English common law in every single state, including Arkansas, except Louisiana, which has French common law.
Interesting. We're visiting with Mark Cooper. He's the candidate for District Court Judge in Baxter, Marion County. Time for the news. Be right back. 7:35 on a beautiful Wednesday morning. Continue our discussion with Mark Cooper, candidate for, trying to get it right, District Court Judge of Baxter, Marion Counties. This is a new district, District 10, and the current judge is Judge Gerhardt?
Well, there are two judges for the two counties. Baxter County has a current judge, that's Judge Gerhardt, and Marion County has a judge, and that is my opponent, if you want to say opponent, Judge Duffy. So, as I was saying before we went to break, brand new district, Baxter and Marion County have never been joined together, so there is no incumbent in this race. This is not only an open seat, it is a brand new seat.
Let's talk about distracted driving. I'm a member of Families Against Distracted Driving, FAD. It's on Facebook that way.
I am too.
Judge Duffy has talked about this. In fact, he addressed the Republican Women's Club earlier this month and saying that was the main part of his platform. You can see the little bracelet right here, and you get one of those. You probably got one of those because they were out there at your booth. Your thoughts on distracted driving, mainly texting?
Oh, it's a horrible problem, and the organization Families Against Distracted Driving have endorsed me, and they know that I will stand firm on the bench. There are a couple of things, Dale, that right now the statute that need to be brought to mind. Right now the statute does not have a lot of teeth in it, and when that ticket is written for distracted driving, then there's just not a whole lot that any judge can do. Now, one of the things I would like to do is have those people brought into my court where I could actually lecture those people, per se, or at least make them aware. People need to see the inside of a courtroom. They need to see a black robe. They need to know that this is more than just laugh and giggles, because the laugh and giggles of texting and driving at the same time many times results in death. And unfortunately, many times those are of our young people. So the two things, back to what I was saying, that I would like to do is talk to the officers and see on their tickets if they will write must appear, so that if they give a ticket for, say, texting and driving, which is on the books, that they can do that they have to appear in my court. That way they got to see a judge, they've got to see a court, they've got to see a bailiff, and they can be fined, and they will be fined. Now,
let me interject right here, and we discussed this yesterday. I raised 4 boys, and when you get boys, there's going to be some tickets.
Sure.
Now, 16, 17, 18 years old, they're still in high school, they're still learning, they're making mistakes, and you have a $120, $150 ticket. Who winds up paying that initially would be the parents. What if, and this is, if a frog had wings, he wouldn't hit his butt on a rock when he jumps. What 16-year-old kid is going to look cool getting off that school bus at the school because he's lost his license for 14 days because he was doing 40 and a 30? And I know the courts need the money, but what if we change some of it to where, okay, I'm going to hold your license for the next 14 days. You can't drive. You lose that driving privilege because we caught you texting while driving while going down 62 business. Is that illegal? I mean, think of a 16-year-old. When we were 16, we were so cool driving, Mark. Right. Remember? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Go to the high school now, getting out of mom's minivan or something. Come on. Would that not hit home harder to a teenager than mom and dad flipping over 120 for a ticket or something?
Oh, there's no question. You take away driving privileges to any age, not just teenagers, but to any age, and it's our right to our freedom, essentially. I mean, that's the way that we move in society, is getting in our car. So yes, if you could do that, I am not certain the way the statute is written that a judge can do that. That's something that we'll have to explore. But to say today that I think that if I'm elected, I would have the power to do that, I mean, judges have a lot of power. We all know that. But we are confined. Another question I've been answered, Dale, or asked, Dale, is, are you going to be a strict interpreter of what the laws are from the bench? And my answer has been yes. I am not going to legislate from the bench. So I don't want to get into that with the texting and driving. If I can do it, I'll do it.
Sure, but you have to follow the law.
But if the legislature is not provided for it, I can't do it.
I understand. In our pre-broadcast meeting a week ago Monday, I asked you a question about, and I had asked Governor Hutchinson this, has anybody looked at the psychiatric part of repeat offenders? And when we were sitting discussing this in the other room, your statement just, it hit home. And I want you to try to go back to that Monday meeting when we talked about chasing the drag. Is that what was that?
There is a term that I've heard from law enforcement over the years, Dale, and it relates back to what we were talking about earlier in the show, methamphetamine, that a person who does methamphetamine will never duplicate the high that they get the first time that they do meth. And the term that is used is chasing the dragon, because from that point on, they are chasing that high that they will never be able to achieve again.
And that results in the addiction.
That results in the start of the addiction. That results in trying everything within their power to get methamphetamine, make methamphetamine, buy methamphetamine, steal things to get methamphetamine. A lot of people over in our jail, in our county jail right now, maybe they're on a theft charge. Maybe they're on a breaking and entering into a vehicle. If you look to the motive of why they're there, they were trying to get money or some property where they could pawn it, take it out to the scrapyard, get money, buy methamphetamine. So it's still methamphetamine related.
What are they looking for in the high? I mean, you know, and I told you the story when I was working at a automotive parts store where a man bought a gallon of battery acid and a case of carburetor cleaner. And one of the Arkansas State Policeman's Drug Task Force people walked in a little while later, and I told him about that, and he says, that's a meth lab. And they busted it down on 201 South a couple of days later, down by the intermediate school. If you've ever had battery acid get on your skin or clothes, I mean, it'll eat through a pair of jeans or a shirt. Carburetor cleaner, well, of course there's no carburetors anymore, but that's a very, very volatile cleaner. I mean, if you've got any type of grease on any part of an engine, you can hit it with carburetor cleaner and it just comes perfectly clean. But it burns. Why do you want that in your bloodstream?
Dale, a person who is thinking rationally does not want that in their bloodstream. But when a person is addicted to a substance, be it methamphetamine, be it alcohol, be it cigarette smoking, they don't have control. And so that person has lost control. That person is not thinking about what they're putting into their body.
Is it legal for you as a judge, you're on the bench and you have, say that I'm at my third appearance for a DUI, and we have like John 3:16 Ministries down somewhere around Batesville, Arkansas. Being that they're faith-based, faith-based and don't take any government monies, is it legal for a judge to suggest they attend there? Because I don't think you could say you have to go, because I think it's on a volunteer basis at their facility. I said John 3, any faith-based. Is that legal?
Oh, yeah. I think a judge can make it a part of their probation.
Really?
But on the example you just gave, on a DWI third offense, if that person comes into my court and the state meets their burden of proof and they're convicted, they're going to jail. And they're going to go to jail first. And they're, as the old Monopoly
saying, which is
saying,
well deserved.
As the Monopoly saying goes, they're going to go to jail and not pass go. And they're going to go to jail for several months.
Yeah.
And I know we have an overcrowding, and on like DWI 2s, I want to work with our sheriff's office to do whatever I can do to alleviate the weekend problems that we have, because that's when we have so many people that come in to our jail.
Really?
But on a DWI 3, yes, you can order some rehab, But that rehab is going to be on the back end, because it's counterproductive, Dale, that if we do rehab, say at John 3:16, order that as part of probation, and then they come back and do 90 days in jail, they're going to pick up their bad habits again.
Okay.
Do their time in jail, whether that be 120 days or 180 days, and then if they want as part of their probation, if you give them, say, 180 days to serve, which is 6 months, suspend possibly 2 months of that, where they can go to a rehab and give them day-for-day credit for that. But once they don't have your probation officers monitor that, if they check out of that program early, they go back to jail.
Visiting with Mark Cooper. He's a candidate for District Court Judge, Marion, Baxter County. Quick break. Be right back. 7:48 on this beautiful first day of fall. Visiting with Mark Cooper, candidate for District Court Judge, Marion, Baxter County. And what have we not talked about today that we need to cover? What's on your mind?
This, not only is it an important race, but as I said earlier, this is a nonpartisan race. Our legislature has decided quite correctly that every judgeship in Arkansas will be nonpartisan, and they are, and they should be. Politics should not be involved in our judicial system. A lot of people have asked me over the years, if I throw enough money at this case, will it go away? And the answer anymore is no. Maybe 25 years ago, on things such as DWIs, a certain amount of money contributed to a fund, a completely legal fund, you could do. But now you cannot do that. Our legislature has said, for example, on DWI, that you cannot, as a prosecutor, dismiss a DWI. You can stipulate facts to find someone not guilty if you truly feel they're not guilty, but you cannot dismiss a DWI. But just to cover briefly what this office is going to entail, this office is going to cover right now, as it's set up, 11 different courts in 2 different counties. We're going to handle every misdemeanor that comes before, that is written in these 2 counties, will come before this court. Think about that. Every single misdemeanor that's written that is contested.
Do all those go in front of the judge?
Well, some such as speeding tickets, people will simply pay. But many of them, people will hire counsel or still come to court because if they have a clean record, they want to keep that off their record. And if they do have a clean record and it's not a hideous violation, say it's 65 and a 55, then yeah, we'll probably keep that off their record if it's their first offense. We're going to cover small claims violations up to 25, not violations, but small claims cases, up to $25,000. That's a lot of money. Most controversies can be litigated in small claims court. We're going to cover orders of protection. Right now, Judge Gerhardt, every single order of protection.
No, for I don't know what that is. Tell me what that is.
Orders of protection are granted initially in an ex parte fashion, meaning that a person goes in, male or female, and it's usually a domestic type situation, fills out paperwork under oath stating that they have been abused, that they feel that their safety is threatened, their life is threatened, and it usually goes to one of our circuit judges. Here it may go to Judge Gerhardt initially, and an ex parte order will be entered, meaning the other party doesn't get a chance to speak. Within a short period of time, say within 3 to 4 weeks, there's a full-blown hearing on that. A judge has the power, either Judge Duffy or myself would have the power to make that order become permanent up to 10 years. Now that means that if that is granted, a person many times justifiably cannot be near that person, cannot be near children, and it also has the effects of you probably cannot have a handgun, probably cannot own a gun, because you go to the local gun shop and they run a background check and they show that you have a permanent order of protection entered against you, then it's going to kick you out. You're not going to be able to get a gun.
Oh. Well, that's good.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes, but those are things that I don't think maybe the electorate is quite aware of, that how encompassing that our legislature has made this job. It's going to be a full-time job. It's going to be a difficult job, but obviously it's a job that I very much want, because a lot of thought, a lot of prayer went into it before I decided, along with my wife, to get into this race.
Well, this is your first campaign. What do you think about campaigning? Because I've seen so many politicians campaigning, from state level jobs to these smaller offices. What do you think? Have you enjoyed it?
I've enjoyed it. I will say what I've said to you, to a whole bunch of people. It is the most humbling experience of my adult life. You're out there, you're campaigning, you're shaking hands, you're asking people for their vote, and very few people do you really know if you're going to get their vote or not. And then people that say that they're going to vote for you, are you going to be able to get them to the polls? Mm-hmm. So it's in getting prepared to try a case, I feel like I've got a pretty good feel when I go into the courtroom, look the judges in the eyes, and I think I know where I stand. It's hard to know where you stand politically. So, yeah, I mean, I'm a people person. I love meeting people. Win, lose, or draw, I'll say I did the right thing about running this race, because I've met so many people already. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned earlier, Dale, we got a long way to go. Here we are in late September. The election is March 1 of 2016.
That's just a little over 5 months.
That's right.
And the disadvantage here is, of course, Christmas is on a Friday. That puts New Year's Day on a Friday. So that's basically going to be 2 weeks of no campaign. And when folks are out for New Year's holiday, school starts back, I think, January 4th or 5th. Really, January 11th is going to be we were discussing this in one of the meetings, about January 11th is really when you can pick up the campaign after the first of the year. And it's going to be 2 short months. That's
right. There's going to be a sprint to the finish line, and that sprint may be over snow-covered roads. It may be in putting yard signs up first with a snow shovel to clear the area to put them up. But that's, again, that's what the legislature has said that we have. We both have the same playing field, so we'll just keep going, and March 1, the voters will determine.
30 seconds. Final thoughts.
Dale, I want the folks to know that I will handle this job in the most fair way that I know how to handle it. That when they come into my court, they will be treated in a polite, professional way. That I will interpret, as I stated earlier, the laws of this state as the legislature has given them to me. I'm not going to legislate from the bench. There are laws that every judge may not agree with, but whatever those laws are, they're going to be enforced if the state of Arkansas meets their burden of proof.
That wraps it up. I've been visiting with Mark Cooper, candidate for District Court Judge, Marion, Baxter County. Thanks to Mark for being here today. That wraps it up. We will see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.